Welcome to the Leaders Edge podcast. I'm Sandy Laycox, Editor-in-Chief of Leaders Edge. In this episode, I sit down with the Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers Government Affairs team, Joel Wood, Joel Copperud, and Blair Bartlett. I get their take on Build Back Better's chances of passing, midterm elections, the latest threats and opportunities for the employer-sponsored insurance market, and more. Give it a listen.
So thank you guys. I'm so excited to be here with the Council's Government Affairs team, Joel Wood, Joel Copperud, and Blair Bartlett. How are you guys doing?
Joel and I are really cute today. We both have our little blue shirts on and our council pack red ties on. And we're all just happy February, gearing up for our Ledge Summit.
I'm wearing black, like my soul, like my coffee.
Well, we are here on the cusp of Ledge Summit, and we thought it would be a great idea to sort of get your thoughts on a few different topics today. We'll start off with the recent Supreme Court news, the retirement of Justice Breyer coming up and potential new justice. Love to hear what you guys think about how that will all go down.
I think the biggest issue for us is the calendar in the Senate. And to get anything done in the United States Senate, it takes a lot of time. You need 60 votes to really move forward on almost anything other than the reconciliation bill. And if you look at what the agenda is before Chuck Schumer, this is going to be very difficult to squeeze in while they're trying to finish the president's agenda on Build Back Better. We'll get into that in a minute, but I think that we see some light at the end of the tunnel on that. They've got to get federal funding done. We're going to, a little over 2 weeks, we run out of federal funding. And we've got this China jobs competition bill that's dangling over them that they also have to get done. And they want to get it all done by the end of March. And that's just not possible. So, and obviously the political outlook for Democrats, it's an uphill battle. They've got to have some deliverables on the ground. They are very focused on kitchen table issues. And it's very difficult to see how a Supreme Court nomination fits into the agenda. That said, it does energize the base. The Biden administration really needs to give the base something. They are failing on Build Back Better. They're failing on a lot of fronts. And the base is not enthusiastic. His poll numbers are really, really low. Democrats are going into a tough midterm election with 33% is the lowest number I've heard for the president's approval rating. So this is an opportunity to energize the base, and it's going to put Supreme Court and court-based issues front and center when you think about affirmative action, when you think about Roe v. Wade, everything that's before the American people and before the courts. This could help energize the base, so there is a silver lining there, but it's really difficult to see how they get everything done that they need to get done.
I'm actually going to sound a happy note and basically agree with everything that Joel K. just said. We're losing a liberal Supreme Court justice who's going to be replaced with a moderate to liberal Supreme Court justice. I don't think that this is going to be top of mind for voters in the fall. I think it does give the administration a little bit of a bump with the base right now, but you're right, the polling numbers are absolutely abysmal. Biden started off January 21 with a 57% approval rating. That's flipped to a 57% disapproval rating. If you look at the overall numbers, 33%. In Georgia, a poll last week showed where, you've got Raphael Warnock running for re-election, Herschel Walker and others that are running against him and polling up. But the strong disapproval rate was over 50%. Very scary numbers for the administration. Different members of the administration taking their turn in the barrel right now. This week it's HHS Secretary Becerra. We've been seeing the Vice President taking her turn in the barrel, Ron Klain, the Chief of Staff. Here's the biggest thing. First of all, when politically, you first beat the opposition in their heads, and then you beat them at the ballot box. And in 2010, when Republicans captured 66 seats and recaptured the House of Representatives, there were a total of 17 Democratic retirements that year. In 2022, right now we are at 29 Democratic retirements and counting. Now, there are fewer seats. There's not going to be 66 seats that Republicans could pick up. Fewer seats that are really in the middle. But we're watching them very closely, and we think, as a Republican, I'm pretty bullish. The Senate, a little less so. But, Sandy, we've gone far afield from your first question about the Supreme Court. Blair, anything to add?
No, I agree. I don't think, the lead pick for the president is controversial at all. It's not going to be like a Kavanaugh or Amy Coney Barrett. The hardest thing is going to be the Senate schedule. That's going to delay everything.
Okay, before we leave the courts, we've recently seen two vaccination-related opinions come down I'd love to hear your thoughts on what these mean for employers.
Well, mine are really quick, which is the Supreme Court threw it out, and the Biden administration is not challenging the mandate on large employers. So I think you're going to continue to see it on an employer by employer, region by region, industry sector by industry sector going forward.
There is an interesting dynamic happening, I think, in general with politics and the relationship between business and politics, which is where you're seeing businesses start to take the lead where government cannot, where government is failing. We're seeing it with every issue from the minimum wage increase to the vaccines. And I think this is an issue where we're starting to see business leaders step up and take the lead on issues that government is failing to take the lead on. And I think we will continue to see that for quite some time.
I mean, this is how the founding fathers set up our government, right? There's too much federal government overreach. The Supreme Court pulls it back, and that's what happened in this instance.
Yeah, it is also fascinating with all the misinformation and what's happening with the social media platforms spreading misinformation. There's increasingly lack of trust trust of government leaders, of politicians, of the media. There's no one trusts faith-based leaders anymore. The number one trusted messenger in the United States right now is the corporate CEO, is the leadership of companies, is business. So we are seeing business start to step up in a way that they've never stepped up before.
Okay, let's stick with Congress. Build Back Better, is anything going to come of that? And if so, are there any issues of note for our members?
Yeah, I'm actually pretty bullish on this. I think that they are going to get something done. The big question, as we talked about before, is the schedule in the Senate and how they can shoehorn something in there. But we do know that it's all about Senator Manchin, Manchin and Sinema. But Manchin right now is talking with Clyburn, the majority whip in the House, and Clyburn's responsible for getting a lot of things done through the House. Manchin's talking to Speaker Pelosi, and it sounds increasingly like it's going to have some kind of means-tested child tax credit in there. There's strong support for a lot of the ACA provisions that are in there, including the prescription drug measures. And there's even going to be some climate measures that Manchin supports that's likely to get in there. It's a far cry from the $1.5 trillion that he originally said he would support as a top-line spending number, and a good further cry from the $3 trillion that some of the progressives wanted. But I am optimistic that they get something done.
Well, I would say I am pessimistic that they get something done, because I think that they're going to get something done. I don't view that as a good thing. There's not much in this bill that I like, nor that I think many of our member firms are going to like. On the other hand, there's really nothing that is aimed at them. I think probably the closest thing in the BBB framework that impacts us on the employer-sponsored health insurance coverage is the expansion of the subsidies in the ACA exchanges. It was a part of the American Rescue Plan last year, and they expire at the end of this year. We do, on balance, like a lot of the prescription drug reforms, the Medicare negotiation, some of those, as long as those negotiated prices apply to commercial plans, which is a little bit in doubt. I do share your sentiment that most people think, well, Manchin killed it and BBB is dead and that's it. That may be the case, but I still believe that that the progressives and the administration feel that they've got to get something across the finish line. It will be much scaled back. Progressives won't love it. And then we just have to worry about what are those tax provisions going to look like. And we've got different member firms that are impacted differently, whether it's through the corporate rate for C corporations, whether it's through provisions that would extend the ACA 3.8% surcharge on employer plans, on ERISA plans for pass-through organizations. And then a number of other things that were very troubling that we had to sort of play whack-a-mole last fall, and we could be right back into that again.
About, I think it was maybe before EBLF, the three of us, did kind of a message for everyone at EBLF, kind of talking them through the Build Back Better. And I think, Joel Wood, you asked me, how much do you think it's actually going to be? And I said $1 trillion. And you kind of rolled your eyes and laughed at me it's going to be so much more than that. And we're standing at kind of $1 trillion,
I don't remember that, Blair.
Oh, I do.
Liar.
So I don't know if trillion's the lucky number, but if I was advising the president, I would say, look, what is the reality of what we can get done? And how do we spin that so it's our idea? And how is it going to be better for the economy and better for the average person? Because right now we're still talking about ideas that are hard for everyone to grasp that it works for them and that it is worth the cost.
I've heard over and over from Democrats that they have spent how many election cycles campaigning on lower prescription drug costs, and they view this as their last opportunity to do that. And to exactly what you said,
Then
how
make
they
it
make
about
people's lives
lower
better,
drug
that's
costs.
what they're trying to do.
Then make it about lower drug costs and not about saving the planet.
Right.
May I just note, Joel is so sick of hearing me say this, but if time were money and 1 second was $1, it would take you 11 days to become a millionaire. It would take you 37.2 years to become a billionaire. If time were money, it would take you 37,200 years to become a trillionaire. So it's, only a trillion, Blair?
Yeah.
I never heard that anecdote being shared when Republicans were passing their reconciliation bill a couple years ago. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
I will note, so I did have dinner with Senator Manchin a couple months ago now. It was in like late November, and he said then what he is saying now, which he said several months ago, which is that he has to be able to sell this bill to his constituents in West Virginia. West Virginia voted for Donald Trump with over 70%. So he's been very consistent. I need to be able to sell this bill. Is this a child poverty bill? Is this a health care bill? Is this an environmental bill? All of which he supports, but he needs to figure out how can he package this and how can he sell it. And it was very difficult for him to sell the original Build Back Better legislation that he was looking at. And I feel like what he's going to get to now is going to be much easier for him to sell.
Not to mention, the president he hasn't been doing like the big road show that previous presidents have done.
Right, and there's a lot of frustration.
he can't
from
get
Democrats
anybody to
that he
show
hasn't
up. When he went to Georgia on the voting rights stuff, Stacey Abrams had a scheduling conflict. When he went to Pittsburgh last week, the frontrunner for the Democratic nomination for the Senate seat, Lieutenant Governor John Fetterman, he had a scheduling conflict. I mean, so doing a road show, taking that show to West Virginia as he attempted to send Kamala there once, and then Bernie running op-ed pieces in the Charleston. I mean, you said it, Joel. It won West Virginia by over 40%. I'm not sure Manchin ever gets there, given the treatment he's gotten from many of his Democratic colleagues.
Yeah. I think he gets there.
All right. Let's stick with politics. You waded a little bit into the midterm elections before. Love to hear your thoughts on any key races that we should be paying attention to.
Well, we've all got our lists and our priority candidates. I think the most interesting stuff is happening in the Senate right now, and whereas I feel very confident that Republicans are going to retake the House of Representatives, and I think even Joel hears that in all the little liberal seances he attends on your behalf, but the Senate races are very much up in the air, and I'm concerned about losing a terrific senator like Rob Portman in Ohio, where it's very unclear and what the Trump factor is going to be in that, where you've got J.D. Vance, you've got Josh Mandel, you've got James Timken, where you've got very unclear circumstances in Pennsylvania to succeed Pat Toomey, where Dr. Oz is landed with a big thud so far. The McCormick Spice billionaire is sort of coming up, but you've got other candidates. Very unclear what role Trump will play there. Same could be said for Republican prospects in Arizona against Mike Kelly. Hard to identify. Got a couple of self-funders there. Nevada, the Republicans struck out in getting Chris Sununu to run against Maggie Hassan in New Hampshire. I've seen years, like 1980, 1994, where a lot of accidental candidates woke up and were senators and congresspeople. So it may be that the overarching public sentiment right now, if Biden doesn't get these numbers back up, it will propel Republican control of the Senate. But right now, it's very murky.
Yeah, that's right. I think Democrats feel a little conflicted on this. I would focus, when you ask about races, I would focus on a lot of the Senate races, but then collectively the House redistricting and how that benefits or hurts Democrats and Republicans. On the Senate races, I feel like Democrats are really conflicted in that they want to continue to talk about kitchen table issues because that's where the votes are, right? It's still all about the suburbs. But on one hand, they're not really delivering on a lot of those kitchen table issues for all kinds of reasons, so that's difficult. But at their core, from the conversations that I'm having with staffers and members, they're really fearful about the future of democracy. And at January 6th really did change everything. So while Joel just outlined the race in the Senate.
I was counting down the minutes.
The question is who spreads the biggest lie the furthest? Is that how are we going to get our next Republican senator? But now those aren't kitchen table issues, but Democrats really do feel like that's what's on the line. So they really need to thread the needle, and that's why they feel even more like they really have to deliver so they can show that that democratic government actually does work, because very much on the line is the rule of law and the future of democracy as we know it. We are looking at, well, I don't need to go into the voting rights stuff, but they are very conflicted. On the Senate, on the House side, going into this, we all knew it was going to be an uphill battle, just historically for the party in power, for Democrats in midterm elections. We are starting to see a lot of silver linings pop up. As the redistricting lines are becoming more clear and being solidified, there are more districts now, new districts, that voted for Biden than voted for Trump. That's a good thing for Democrats. Now Biden's underwater. They feel like if they're going to win, they need to increase the president's approval rating by about 5 points, and then they're really in the game, and they think that they have time to do that. And if you look at some of these, if you go district by district by district, and you look at the candidates, and they're very confident about their recruiting efforts, they feel like Kevin McCarthy's measuring the drapes a little too soon.
I would say if you look at the House, you need to look at places like Ohio and New York where the lines aren't really final yet, and so it lags on those on those candidates that want to run. And if Speaker Pelosi could focus and get bills passed, knowing that they may not, knowing that the Senate won't even consider them, she would give those members that are running in tough districts, running in districts where Trump won or almost won, to give them kind of messaging bills to say, like, as your member of Congress, I was able to get this bill past the House. Like that, she could do that and help those members and get things moving.
Too late. All those members that walked the plank for her, just like Marjorie Margolis-Mezvinsky did in 1994 for Bill Clinton, and they were waving goodbye, Margie, on the way out as she was casting her vote. Everybody that voted for what was really a $4.5 trillion Build Back Better plan in the House of Representatives, because they were doing all kinds of budgetary tricks, like extending the child tax credits for only 2 years, for example, but yet having the taxes for 10 years. They've already cast those votes, and then they weren't able. They thought they had a mandate when they had to have control of the House of Representatives by 4 votes and 0 votes to spare in the Senate. So I think that ship has sailed. I think marginally some things things can't get worse for them, but I think that the fix is pretty much in. With respect to the House, the Senate is just more up in the air. And yes, you're right. Future democracy at stake. Yeah, magnetometers. First thing that's going to happen when Kevin McCarthy is sworn in as Speaker is that the magnetometers are going to leave the House floor. We don't have them on the Senate side. I don't think anybody thinks that Susan Collins is going to pistol whip Chuck Schumer, as apparently every Democrat thinks that Republicans are in the House of Representatives. But the magnetometers are going to go, and that is the first, I think, major demonstration of how trust has just gone out the door in this incredibly terrible environment. And don't even get me started on proxy voting, how the members don't even see one another, interact with one another, know one another, get friends with one another, and work together.
Yeah, it does not help at all. Not having committee meetings, not seeing members in the cafeteria.
Other than that, horrible. We are all simpaticos, Sandy. How does that sound?
They even dressed alike today.
Okay, so this is a very random question I'm going to ask you guys, and maybe it shows my ignorance a little bit, but it seems from sort of the non-political insider point of view that you have a lot more candidates running who have 0 political science background at all, or any sort of experience like that. Is that real? Do you see more of that, or is that just those are the people that make the headlines?
Yeah, Dees did incredibly well in 2018 in running candidates that were, not the next guy in line. They ran a lot of women candidates, a lot of veterans, and Republicans took that exact playbook and did exactly the same thing to them in 2020. Not a single Republican incumbent in the House of Representatives lost re-election, and a lot of people who were new and fresh, and that's not all a bad thing.
No, because and also, you're seeing now a lot of retirements because it just, you're getting people elected that may have that experience, that have that political experience, or, were Hill staffers or worked in the state Senate, and then they come up here and it's not how they thought it was. And so you've got to get someone fresh who isn't jaded.
Yeah, that's right. I can say the DCCC has been really focused more so than before because of lessons learned on candidate recruitment and solid candidates. And I don't think that that's a bad thing for our industry to have more real Americans, more business leaders. It's not bad to have professional politicians either because you want to be effective.
The flip side of this, and we're all in agreement on this, but the flip side on it is that the more inexperienced candidates that we see running the United States Congress, the more people like us get to call the shots and staffers because you do want experience. You do want the John Dingles of the world who served in the Congress for 50 years and browbeat 10,000 witnesses before his committee and knew the ins and outs of everything that was there. There's something to be said for that, though that's not going to be a popular sentiment with most of America.
All right. We're going to move on to employer-sponsored insurance, one of our top issues. Couple things here. One, we have always over the years heard about the threat of the single payer option, public option. Some years you hear more about it than others. Anything newsworthy on this front that you guys are working on that you're seeing?
Yeah, the biggest newsworthy issue, and I don't know how newsworthy this is anymore, but no one really talks about it anymore, which is the death of the public option at the federal level. But 1 year ago, it was the biggest issue on the presidential campaign trail. We had proposals from completely eviscerating the employer-sponsored insurance market for a government program, all the way down to Joe Biden's position, which was a public option for those who want it. Neither of those exist anymore. They're not part of the Build Back Better plan, and that's for all kinds of reasons. And we, on one hand, we were just a voice in the choir on this alongside Big Pharma, all the carriers, large employer groups. But on the other hand, we were a founding member of the biggest organization, the biggest coalition to fight this. So we were players in this, and it's not on the table anymore. But it has just evolved. I don't think it's going away forever. We are now seeing this going on at the state level. We saw a proposal in Colorado several years ago that died at the ballot on a referendum. The latest iterations are in California. That recently died, which is great. There's still one alive.
That's breaking news that they're pulling that. But California's law requires 2/3 majorities in both the House and Senate and a referendum. And even with the supermajorities there, they couldn't get that over. I guess the biggest remaining concern that we've had has been New York, though we've not been hearing from Governor Hochul or any of the other candidates trying to move something massively in this election year.
Yeah, and I think they're waiting to see where the labor unions play out on that one. But I think you see a quiet movement within the federal government, within the regulators, kind of moving toward more universal coverage versus single payer. What are the tools that we already have at our disposal that can make it easier for people to sign up for, healthcare in the marketplace? You're
That's
seeing,
right.
Every year you're seeing larger and larger numbers. And so, what movements can be done there without legislation.
Yeah, I was just going to say the same thing. For Democrats, it's all about access, quality, affordability. So they couldn't do it through a government program, so they're doing it through other means. In fact, part of the Build Back Better plan is not a public option, but the alternative is they are just subsidizing people to go buy the insurance on the private market, and they're increasing those subsidies. So it's just a roundabout way of, at the end of the day, they just want everyone to have access to
every time they increase those
healthcare.
subsidies, you increase the cost shift to private employers. You don't do anything to bend the healthcare cost curve. So that's why I'm hoping that the provisions to expand the eligibility for the subsidies in the exchanges just dies.
On the flip side, the more the individual market erodes, the more the commercial markets pay the price. So if we can keep stability in the individual markets, we are for that.
And that is what we look forward to spending a lot of time with our benefits executives coming up next week, discussing what are the realistic things that we can do. And most of these are pretty wonky. They're reinsurance pools, residual market tools, and individual states that have had some success with them. But they're not sexy. But Joel's right. The lack of any substantial proposal to go after a public option, which we hate, is one of the most remarkable and unreported successes for our industry sector in the last year. Just considering where the candidates were, considering that unity document after the Democratic convention between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden and what kind of impact that would have had on private insurance.
That was Joel Wood, Joel Copperud, and Blair Bartlett, the government affairs team for the Council of Insurance Agents and Brokers. I hope you enjoyed our conversation. Tune in next time at leadersedge.com or wherever you subscribe to podcasts.